Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. The sound of scissors snipping filled the air as Albert sat motionless in the kitchen chair, a towel draped around his shoulders. His wife, Melissa, worked meticulously, sectioning off portions of his shoulder-length brown hair and applying bleach with a small brush. The pungent smell of chemicals wafted through the room. "Are you sure about this, hon?" Melissa asked, her voice tinged with a mix of excitement and concern. "There's no going back once we start." Albert nodded, his eyes fixed on his reflection in the mirror propped up on the kitchen table. "I've never been more certain," he replied, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "It's now or never?" For years, Albert had harbored a secret desire to embrace his feminine side fully. Crossdressing had been a part of his life since adolescence, but always behind closed doors, hidden from the world. Now, on the cusp of his 40th birthday, he'd made the decision to make a bold statement, to grow out his hair, bleach it blonde, and finally allow himself to be who he truly felt he was inside. Melissa continued her work, carefully applying the bleach to each section of Albert's hair. "You know, I always wondered if you'd take this step," she mused, her fingers working deftly. "I'm proud of you for having the courage to do it." Albert smiled, his heart swelling with gratitude for his wife's unwavering support. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said softly. "Your acceptance means everything to me." As the bleach began to take effect, Albert's scalp tingled with a slight burning sensation. He closed his eyes, focusing on his breathing to stay calm. This was more than just a hair transformation. It was a rebirth. A chance to finally align his outer appearance with his inner self. "All right, now for the eyebrows," Melissa announced, setting down the bleach brush and picking up a pair of tweezers. "This might sting a bit, but trust me, it'll be worth it." Albert braced himself as Melissa began plucking his eyebrows, wincing slightly with each hair removed. He'd never paid much attention to his brows before, but now he understood their importance in framing the face and creating a more feminine appearance. "You're doing great," Melissa encouraged, her face a mask of concentration as she shaped Albert's brows into a more delicate arch. "Just a little more." Time seemed to stretch on as Albert sat still, allowing his wife to work her magic. The kitchen clock ticked steadily in the background, marking the passage of time and the slow transformation taking place. Finally, Melissa stepped back, admiring her handiwork. "Okay, I think we're ready for the eyebrow dye. This will really make them pop against your new blonde hair." Albert nodded, his heart racing with anticipation. He watched as Melissa mixed the dark dye and carefully applied it to his newly shaped brows. The contrast was striking, even before the hair bleach had fully developed. As they waited for both the hair bleach and eyebrow dye to set, Melissa pulled up a chair next to Albert. She took his hand in hers, giving it a gentle squeeze. "How are you feeling?" she asked softly. Albert took a deep breath, his emotions swirling. "Nervous," he admitted. "Excited, scared. It's all hitting me at once, this is really happening." Melissa nodded understandingly. "It's a big step, but remember, this is who you are. You're not becoming someone new. You're finally letting the real you shine through." Her words calmed Albert, and he felt a wave of peace wash over him. "You're right," he said, squeezing her hand back. "I've waited so long for this moment. It feels right." The timer on Melissa's phone chimed, signaling that it was time to rinse out the bleach and dye. With gentle hands, she led Albert to the kitchen sink, helping him lean back as she washed away the chemicals. As the warm water cascaded over his scalp, Albert closed his eyes, imagining the person he would see in the mirror when this was all over. Would he recognize himself? Would the world see him differently? Melissa worked silently, her fingers massaging Albert's scalp as she rinsed away the last traces of bleach. The water running off his hair gradually changed from a murky brown to clear, and Albert's heart raced with anticipation. "All right, let's dry you off and see the results," Melissa said, her voice barely containing her excitement. She wrapped a fresh towel around Albert's head, gently patting his hair dry. Albert sat up slowly, his eyes still closed. He could feel the weight of his damp hair on his shoulders, lighter somehow than before. Melissa guided him back to the chair in front of the mirror, positioning him just so. "Are you ready?" she asked, her hands on the towel covering his hair. Albert took a deep breath, steeling himself for the moment of truth. "I'm ready," he whispered. Melissa slowly unwrapped the towel, revealing Albert's transformation bit by bit. As the last of the fabric fell away, Albert opened his eyes and his breath caught in his throat. Staring back at him from the mirror was a stranger, and yet it was the truest version of himself he'd ever seen. His once brown hair was now a shimmering platinum blonde, framing his face in soft waves. The dark, perfectly shaped eyebrows created a striking contrast, drawing attention to his eyes in a way he'd never experienced before. "Oh my God," Albert breathed, reaching up to touch his hair in disbelief. "Is that really me?" Melissa beamed, her eyes shining with pride and love. "It's you, all right, and you look absolutely stunning." Albert couldn't tear his gaze away from his reflection. The person looking back at him was undeniably feminine, with delicate features accentuated by the new hair color and eyebrow shape. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing the woman he'd always known existed inside. "I can't believe it," Albert whispered, turning his head from side to side to admire the transformation from every angle. I feel like me. For the first time in my life, I truly feel like me." Melissa wrapped her arms around Albert's shoulders, pressing a kiss to his cheek. "You've always been you, sweetheart. Now the whole world can see it too." As the reality of the situation sank in, Albert felt a mix of emotions wash over him. There was joy, of course, an overwhelming sense of rightness and belonging in his own skin, but there was also a tinge of sadness, a bittersweet acknowledgement of the years spent hiding his true self. "I wish I'd done this sooner," Albert said softly, reaching up to touch Melissa's hand on his shoulder. "All those years wasted." Melissa shook her head, meeting Albert's eyes in the mirror. They weren't wasted. Every experience, every moment of hiding and fear led you to this point. You needed that time to become who you are today, strong enough to take this step, to embrace your true self. Albert nodded, feeling the truth of her words resonate within him. "You're right. I don't think I would have been ready before now, but God, it feels good to finally be me." As they sat there, basking in the glow of Albert's transformation, a thought occurred to him. "You know," he said, a small smile playing on his lips, "I don't think Albert really fits anymore. It doesn't feel right." Melissa raised an eyebrow, curiosity sparking in her eyes. "Oh, did you have something else in mind?" Albert, or rather the person who had been Albert, paused, considering. "I've always loved the name Allison," she said softly, testing out the feel of it on her tongue. "What do you think?" Melissa's face lit up with a warm smile. "Allison," she repeated, nodding approvingly. "It suits you perfectly. My beautiful Allison." Hearing the name spoken aloud sent a thrill through Allison's body. It felt right, like the final piece of a puzzle clicking into place. "Allison it is, then," she said, her voice filled with newfound confidence. As the evening wore on, Allison found herself unable to stop looking at her reflection. Every glance in the mirror was a revelation, a chance to see herself as she truly was for the first time. Melissa sat with her, offering words of encouragement and admiration as Allison explored her new appearance. "You know," Melissa said, a mischievous glint in her eye, "we should celebrate this moment properly. How about we go shopping tomorrow? Get you some new clothes to match your fabulous new look?" Allison's heart raced at the suggestion. The thought of going out in public, presenting as her true self, was both exhilarating and terrifying. I don't know if I'm ready for that," she admitted, her voice wavering slightly. Melissa took Allison's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "You don't have to be ready right away. We can take it slow, maybe start with some online shopping. But whenever you feel ready to take that step, I'll be right there with you." Allison nodded, grateful for her wife's understanding and support. "Thank you," she said softly. "For everything. I don't know what I'd do without you." As the night deepened, Allison found herself growing tired, the emotional weight of the day's events finally catching up with her. Melissa noticed her yawning and suggested they head to bed. "Tomorrow's a new day," she said, helping Allison up from the chair. "The first day of your new life as Allison." As they prepared for bed, Allison caught sight of herself in the bathroom mirror once more. The blonde hair, the shaped eyebrows, it was all still there, not a dream or a fleeting fantasy. This was real, and it was permanent. Lying in bed that night, Allison's mind raced with thoughts of the future. How would her friends react, her colleagues, the world at large? But as she felt Melissa's warm presence beside her, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she wouldn't face them alone. The next morning, Allison woke to the soft light of dawn filtering through the curtains. For a moment, she forgot about the previous day's transformation, but as she sat up and felt the unfamiliar weight of long blonde hair brushing against her shoulders, it all came rushing back. She padded to the bathroom, her heart pounding with anticipation. Would it still look the same in the harsh light of day? As she flicked on the light and faced her reflection, a smile spread across her face. If anything, she looked even more radiant than she had the night before. Melissa joined her a few minutes later, wrapping her arms around Allison's waist from behind. "Good morning, beautiful," she murmured, pressing a kiss to Allison's cheek. "How does it feel to wake up as your true self?" Allison leaned back into her wife's embrace, her eyes never leaving her reflection. "It feels incredible," she said softly, "like I've finally woken up from a long dream." As they went about their morning routine, Allison marveled at how such a seemingly small change could have such a profound impact on her sense of self. Every movement, every glance in the mirror felt new and exciting. Over breakfast, Melissa broached the subject of their plans for the day. "So, about that shopping trip," she began, a twinkle in her eye. "I was thinking we could start small. Maybe just a quick trip to the mall. We don't have to buy anything if you're not comfortable, but it might be good to get out there, see how it feels." Allison felt a flutter of nervousness in her stomach, but beneath it was a spark of excitement. I think I'd like that," she said, surprising herself with her own boldness. "But what should I wear? I don't exactly have a wardrobe full of women's clothes." Melissa grinned, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. "Leave that to me," she said, disappearing into their bedroom. She returned a few minutes later with a bundle of clothes in her arms. "I may have done a little online shopping in anticipation of this day," she admitted sheepishly. Allison's eyes widened as Melissa laid out the outfit on the table. A flowing blouse in a soft shade of blue, a pair of well-fitted jeans, and a delicate necklace. "Melissa, I don't know what to say," she stammered, overcome with emotion. "You don't have to say anything," Melissa replied, her eyes shining with love. "Just try them on." With trembling hands, Allison took the clothes and retreated to the bedroom to change. As she slipped on each item, she felt a sense of rightness settling over her, the fabric against her skin, the way the clothes hugged her body. It all felt so natural, so her. When she emerged from the bedroom, Melissa's face lit up with joy. "Oh, Allison," she breathed, "you look absolutely stunning." Allison turned to look at herself in the full-length mirror on the closet door. The person staring back at her was a vision of femininity, the blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, the blue blouse bringing out the color of her eyes, the jeans accentuating her curves. For the first time in her life, her outer appearance matched the woman she'd always known herself to be. "I can't believe it," Allison whispered, turning from side to side to admire herself from every angle. "Is this really me?" Melissa came up behind her, wrapping her arms around Allison's waist. "It's always been you, sweetheart. Now the whole world gets to see the beautiful woman I've always known." As they prepared to leave for the mall, Allison felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This would be her first time presenting as a woman in public, and while part of her was thrilled at the prospect, another part was terrified of the potential reactions she might face. Melissa seemed to sense her nervousness. "Remember," she said softly as they stood by the front door, "you don't owe anyone an explanation. You're a beautiful woman going shopping with her wife. That's all anyone needs to know." Allison nodded, drawing strength from Melissa's words and unwavering support. "You're right," she said, taking a deep breath. "Let's do this." The drive to the mall was a blur of emotions for Allison. She found herself constantly checking her appearance in the car's visor mirror, making sure her hair was in place, her makeup, carefully applied with Melissa's guidance, still perfect. As they pulled into the parking lot, Allison's heart began to race. This was it, the moment of truth. Melissa reached over and gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. "You've got this," she said with a smile, "and I'm right here with you." With shaky legs, Allison stepped out of the car. The sun was shining, a gentle breeze ruffling her newly blonde hair. She took a moment to straighten her blouse, then nodded to Melissa. "I'm ready," she said, surprised by the confidence in her own voice. As they walked towards the mall entrance, Allison was acutely aware of every person they passed. She found herself holding her breath, waiting for someone to point or stare or make a comment. But to her amazement, no one seemed to pay her any special attention. She was just another woman out shopping on a beautiful day. Inside the mall, the hustle and bustle of shoppers provided a welcome distraction from Allison's nerves. Melissa led her to a department store, heading straight for the women's section. "See anything you like?" she asked, gesturing to the racks of colorful clothes. Allison's eyes widened as she took in the array of options before her. Dresses, skirts, blouses in every color and style imaginable. It was overwhelming and exhilarating all at once. I don't even know where to start," she admitted. Melissa smiled encouragingly. "Why don't we just browse? If something catches your eye, we can grab it to try on. No pressure to buy anything today. This is just about exploring and having fun." As they moved through the store, Allison found herself drawn to various items. A floral sundress that reminded her of spring, a sleek black pencil skirt that she could imagine wearing to work, a cozy sweater in a rich burgundy shade. With each item she touched, each fabric she felt between her fingers, she felt more and more at home in this new world. "Oh, Allison, look at this!" Melissa exclaimed, holding up a beautiful emerald green blouse. "This color would be stunning with your blonde hair." Allison reached out to touch the silky fabric, her heart fluttering with excitement. "It's gorgeous," she breathed. Do you think I could pull it off?" Melissa's eyes shone with pride and love. "Sweetheart, you could pull off anything. Why don't you try it on?" Before she knew it, Allison found herself in a fitting room, a pile of clothes waiting to be tried on. As she slipped into the green blouse, she caught sight of herself in the mirror and gasped. The color was indeed perfect, bringing out the green flecks in her eyes and complementing her fair skin. "How's it going in there?" Melissa called from outside the fitting room. Allison's voice caught in her throat as she replied, It's amazing. I've never felt so beautiful." She tried on item after item, each one bringing a new thrill of excitement. The black pencil skirt fit in all the right places, making her feel sophisticated. The floral sundress swirled around her legs, light and airy, perfect for a summer day. As she modeled each outfit for Melissa, Allison felt her confidence growing. The nervousness that had plagued her earlier in the day melted away, replaced by a sense of joy and rightness. This was who she was meant to be, who she had always been inside. "Well," Melissa said, as Allison emerged from the fitting room in her original outfit, "I think it's safe to say this shopping trip was a success. Did you want to get anything today?" Allison hesitated, looking at the pile of clothes she'd tried on. Part of her wanted to buy everything, to completely overhaul her wardrobe and fully embrace her new identity. But another part of her was still cautious, still adjusting to this monumental change. Maybe just the green blouse, she suggested tentatively. "As a start?" Melissa beamed. "I think that's perfect. A beautiful piece to mark the beginning of your new journey." As they made their way to the checkout, Allison felt a surge of pride. She was buying her first piece of women's clothing as her true self, out in the open, with her head held high. The cashier smiled warmly at them as she rang up the purchase, commenting on what a lovely color the blouse was. "It'll look beautiful on you," the young woman said as she handed Allison the bag. Allison felt a lump form in her throat, overwhelmed by the casual acceptance. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice thick with emotion. As they left the store, Melissa slipped her arm through Allison's. "How about we celebrate with lunch?" she suggested. "There's a nice little cafe just down the way." Allison nodded, realizing she was indeed hungry after the excitement of the morning. As they settled into a cozy booth at the cafe, she found herself marveling at how normal it all felt. Here she was, a woman having lunch with her wife, and the world hadn't stopped spinning. "Penny for your thoughts?" Melissa asked, reaching across the table to take Allison's hand. Allison smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. "I was just thinking, I've spent so much of my life afraid of being discovered, afraid of rejection, afraid of not being accepted. But today, being out here as my true self, it feels so right, so natural. I can't believe I waited so long to do this." Melissa squeezed her hand, her eyes shining with pride. "You did it when you were ready, and that's what matters. I'm so proud of you, Allison. You're the bravest person I know." As they enjoyed their lunch, chatting and laughing like any other couple, Allison felt a sense of peace settle over her. This was just the beginning of her journey, she knew. There would be challenges ahead, telling friends and family, navigating the workplace, dealing with the inevitable questions and curiosity from others. But for now, in this moment, she was simply Allison, a woman enjoying a day out with her loving wife, finally free to be her authentic self. As she caught sight of her reflection in the cafe window, blonde hair shimmering in the sunlight, a soft smile on her lips, she felt a surge of hope for the future. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of window shopping and people watching. Allison found herself noticing things she'd never paid attention to before, the way other women walked in their heels, the variety of styles and fashions on display, the casual ease with which they moved through the world as their authentic selves. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the parking lot, Allison and Melissa made their way back to the car. Allison's feet were tired from walking, but her spirit felt lighter than it had in years. "Thank you for today," she said softly as Melissa started the car. "I couldn't have done this without you." Melissa leaned over. "You're stronger than you know, Allison. I'm just happy I get to be part of your journey." On the drive home, Allison found herself thinking about the future. There was still so much to figure out. How to tell her colleagues at work, when to start using her new name officially, whether to pursue any medical transitions. But for the first time, these thoughts didn't fill her with dread. Instead, she felt a sense of excitement and possibility. As they pulled into their driveway, Allison caught sight of their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, working in her garden. For a moment, panic seized her. Mrs. Thompson had known them for years as Albert and Melissa. What would she think? But before Allison could retreat into the safety of the car, Mrs. Thompson looked up and waved cheerfully. "Hello, dears," she called out. "Lovely evening, isn't it?" Allison hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and waved back. "It certainly is, Mrs. Thompson," she replied, her voice steady and clear. Mrs. Thompson's eyes widened slightly as she took in Allison's appearance, but her smile never faltered. "My, don't you look lovely today," she said warmly. "That hair color suits you beautifully." Tears pricked at the corners of Allison's eyes as she felt another wave of acceptance wash over her. "Thank you," she said softly. "Have a wonderful evening." As they entered the house, Melissa pulled Allison into a tight hug. "You see," she murmured, "the world is ready to embrace you as you are." That night, as Allison prepared for bed, she found herself lingering in front of the mirror once again. She ran her fingers through her blonde hair, marveling at how such a simple change could have such a profound impact on her sense of self. Melissa came up behind her, wrapping her arms around Allison's waist. "What are you thinking about, beautiful?" she asked softly. Allison leaned back into her wife's embrace, a small smile playing on her lips. "I was just thinking. For so long, I've been counting down to my 40th birthday, seeing it as some kind of deadline. The day I'd have to cut my hair and go back to being Albert. She turned in Melissa's arms, meeting her gaze. But now I realize that birthday isn't an ending, it's a beginning, the start of me truly living as myself. Melissa's eyes shone with love and pride. I couldn't agree more, she said, leaning in to kiss Allison. Happy new beginning, my love. As they settled into bed, Allison felt a sense of peace she'd never known before. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new experiences, new opportunities to be her authentic self, but for the first time in her life, she was ready to face them all. Not as Albert pretending to be someone he wasn't, but as Allison, finally free to be the woman she'd always been inside. With Melissa's steady breathing beside her, and the memory of the day's victories fresh in her mind, Allison drifted off to sleep, dreaming of the bright future that lay ahead. A future where she could finally, truly be herself.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.